So, the first argument we have today for the Creator is something that's called the cosmological argument. Now, cosmo means the universe. Cosmological argument, or the Kallam cosmological argument. Now, Kallam is an Arabic word, means speech or talking. Now, that refers to something called the Kallam science, and it's part of the Islamic sciences, where the scholars, Muslim scholars, and it's more related to philosophy, but it's a way that the Muslim scholars used to debate atheists hundreds of years ago. Hundreds of years ago. So this is not, you see, atheists did not just come up just now. There has been atheists for hundreds and thousands of years. So this argument has been used for hundreds of years by Muslim scholars to debate or to argue against atheists. Now, what does this argument say? The first premise is that everything that has a beginning has a cause. The second premise is that the universe has a beginning. The conclusion is that the universe has a cause. Now let's examine those sentences. Everything that has a beginning has a cause, which means everything that was not here at some stage of life or of time and then came to exist must have a cause. Look around you. Look at yourself. Look at your children. Look at your father, mother, house, a chair, table, fridge. Everything around you that came to exist, that has a beginning, must have a cause. And this is the causality. This is what we talked about in the last lesson. Now, the universe has a beginning. Now, before, at the time of the Muslim scholars, the atheists said, well, the universe is just eternal. It's infinite. It's always been here. So why does it need a cause? And there was a very, I would say, very complex argument to prove that there must be a beginning for the universe. It was more, as I said, it's more kalam. It's related more to philosophy. However, nowadays, alhamdulillah, everyone agrees, atheists, theists, everyone agrees that the universe has a beginning. And how did this happen? Science. Science is working for its creator. Science has proven that the universe has a beginning. And how is that? So, there are many, obviously many reasons. We'll mention a couple. The first one is when Edwin Hubble discovered the telescope in 1929. Now what he saw that the galaxies, the distance between the galaxies are getting bigger. So the universe is expanding. Now what does that mean? How does that refer to the universe having a beginning? You see, if the universe has always been here, infinite, no beginning, then there shouldn't be any movement left in the universe. Everything should be at standstill. You know, if you drop a pebble or a stone in water, then you get those rings happening. If there wasn't that thing dropping in the water, then you will never get the rings. And after a while, the rings will disappear. So as long as the universe is still expanding, then there must be a point where this movement started, where this universe started. So that's the first evidence. The other one is something called the second law of thermodynamics. What does that mean? Now that law has got many forms. One of them is that, you see, heat will always go from the hot object to the cold object and not the opposite until they get into equilibrium. They become even, neutral. So if you have, like, let's say a hot cup of tea, which you probably have now, if you leave this cup of tea on the table in the room and you leave it for hours, you come back and then that cup of tea is cold now. It's the same temperature of the room. Now, we still have heat in the universe. The sun, the earth itself, the core of earth is still hot and still transmitting heat. Now, if the universe has always been here, if it's infinite, there shouldn't be any heat left in the universe. Does that make sense? You see? So they estimate the age of the sun and the age of the earth or the solar system to be 4.7 billion years. The universe is about 14 billion years. However, the sun, the solar system, is about 5 billion years roughly. So they estimate the sun has been burning for 5 billion years, and they estimate that it has another 5 billion years. And eventually, according to science, eventually there will be no life left. Once the sun is gone, once there is no heat in the sun, there will be no life anymore. Now, obviously, we from Quran and from things, we think differently, that the judgment day is likely, according to what we know, is going to happen before that, because the sun will rise from the sun will rise from the west, according to that. So that's another thing to discuss. But for now, okay, what we're saying is that the universe, science has shown that the universe has a beginning. So now even atheists do not argue against that. So everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe, now we know that it has a beginning. The universe must have a cause, must have a creator. Now, what do atheists say? Now, the first thing they say, okay, who created the creator? You talk about causality. Who created the creator? Now, the first thing I'll say, stay there. Stay there. So now you're saying that causality. Now you admit there is causality. Okay, and nothing will come out of nothing. Okay, so you say causality. That's why you're asking who created the creator. Okay. Now, first we didn't say that everything has a cause. We said everything that has a beginning has a cause. That's fine, leave this aside. And we're not going to say, you're saying it's, some people use this, which is, it's a fair argument, say, like you can't say who painted the painter. You can't say who created the creator. But that's fine, leave this aside. We say that you refer to, so you want us to say who created the creator, and then who created the one who created the creator, and then who created the one who created the creator, and then and we keep going. Now that's called infinite regression. And if we admit to that, if we accept that, then nothing will happen. There will be no universe, there will be nothing. How's that about the Rahman? Okay. Now let me give you an example. So what we're saying is that if there is no first cause that does not need a cause, if there's no creator that does not need to be created, then nothing will happen. Now let's put this in something that we can understand, so that no one after that will ask this question, who created God, who created the creator? We will bury this question forever now. Okay. So, this is a classical example. You've got a soldier in the battlefield. This soldier's got a gun. Now, he needs to shoot a bullet towards his enemy. Now, if he says, I'm not going to shoot, and imagine this bullet being the universe, the creation of the universe. Imagine this bullet to resemble that. Now, if he says, I'm not going to shoot until I get an order from my commander. And then his commander will say, I need an order from my commander. And the commander of the commander will need an order from the commander of the commander of the commander. Now, if we keep going backward, if we do not get to a commander, to a creator, the commander who does not need an order from anyone above him, will this bullet be ever, will this soldier ever shoot this bullet? No. He will never be able to do that. So unless there is a creator that does not need to be created, then nothing will happen. There will be no universe, there will be no us, and we will not be asking this question. Does that make sense? So that should bury this question forever. Okay? Infinite regression is not possible. There must be a first cause that doesn't need to be caused. And that's the creator. Okay? Okay. So now you think that you've got the atheist in the corner. And that, they will just admit there's a creator. You know what they will say? They'll say, okay, but you see, that causality thing applies to this world, to this universe. We don't know if it applies outside this universe. But you just said who created the creator because you accepted that causality, must be. And now you're denying causality and saying, I don't know if it applies outside this universe. I say, come here, Tim. Sit down. Sit down. Let me teach you something. See, beings, now this applies to this universe, outside the universe. It applies everywhere. Beings are of two types. Must be, and that's the first cause. Must be. Without it, nothing will happen. Must be. And there is something, other beings that are maybe, like us, like the universe. Is it necessary? Is there something that says we must exist? The universe must exist? No, there's nothing. There's nothing to say that the universe must have existed. Nothing. So it's a maybe. So there's must be, beings are must be and maybe. And there are things that are can't be. What's can't be? Can't be is something like a circular triangle. There's no such thing. So it can't be. It's when the atheists come and tell you, can God make a rock that he cannot lift? There's no such thing. You see, and they don't admit the presence of God, but they just make, they just rubbish comes out from them. Just rubbish. Can God make a rock that he cannot lift? What is that? There's no such thing for God to make. Can't be. Like 1 + 1 + 1 = 1. Can't be. That can't be. So, must be, maybe, and can't be. Now, for this maybe, which is its probability, it can exist and not exist. For this thing to go from the status of non-existence to existence, there must be something that happened that made it happen. In this universe, in other universe, outside the universe, anything that's maybe needs a cause, needs something that made it go from this status, from not being to being. Okay? So that's the cause that we're talking about. There is nothing. Nothing does not make anything. Nothing comes from nothing. Nothing comes from nothing. Okay? So, as long as we exist, there must be a reason that brought us into existence. As long as the universe exists, which we can see, we live in it, something must have brought it to existence. And pay attention, we're always talking about the universe. We try to always talk about the universe because then we get out of this evolution theory, because if you say, how did we come to exist? They'll tell you evolution. And we've talked about that in the last few lectures. So, okay, the universe. As long as the universe exists, and it did not need to exist, there was nothing to make it a must to exist, there must be a cause for it.